We all know the Netherlands, relaxed, easygoing, soldiers with long hair, legalized pot, legalized hookers, smoking pot. But sometimes even the Dutch have to draw a line. A teenage farm boy on a tractor? Let's take that sucker down. Open fire.
Blijf filmen. Kijk, deze gaat voorspelen. Nee joh, hey, wapens jongen, wapens! Hey, wallah, rij weg jongen, rij weg! Wapens is daar!
The sound of shots being fired on a tractor being driven by a teen. Shots firing because otherwise that tractor could just floor it and get away from your police cruisers. You know that heartwarming story about the little Dutch boy who put his finger in the dike? Wouldn't it be much better if the Netherlands coppers just opened fire and turned that dike into Swiss cheese, and then that little punk wouldn't have enough digits to plug all the holes? What's going on here? Our senior executive Dutch bureau chief is Eva Vaardingerbroek, and we're interested to get an authentic Dutch person's explanation of what is going on in the Netherlands right now. Is this the Canadian truckers, but with even greater appeal, Eva?
Somewhat, yeah. You can definitely compare the two. Even the farmers out in the streets have compared themselves to the Canadian truckers and said that they drew inspiration from the truckers' protest. But so just to explain briefly to your viewers what's happening here, the Dutch farmers are out protesting on the street because our government has pushed a law, a nitrogen law, that is basically going to put a lot of these farmers out of business. They have to cut their livestock by 30% before the end of 2030. And well, like I said, then that land goes to the state. So the state is stealing our farmers' land, and the farmers are obviously not having it. I mean, if the state would come into my house and would say, I'm going to take 30% of everything that you have ever worked for, I wouldn't be happy either. But as you saw, the state doesn't respond very well to these farmers protesting, and even have used violence and even shot at a 16-year-old boy that you saw driving away from the protest. So things are getting pretty ugly over here.
Why are they responding in this way, and why are they picking this fight now at a time when there are huge disruptions in the food supply chain around the world?
Because it's not really about a nitrogen crisis for our government. We even had a report come out, a state report, stating that the new regulations are way too harsh on the farmer, even for the nitrogen goal, quote unquote, that they're trying to reach. So there has to be an ulterior motive. And they're not so secretive, actually, about what their ulterior motive is. We've seen in other state documentation that they need the land for housing. And for who do they need these housings? Well, for new immigrants coming to the country. So that's one. And then another theory that obviously we have is that this is a global agenda. It's the 2030 agenda. It's the Great Reset. And farmers are, of course, a really independent group that stand in the way of that. So it's this globalist institutions that are controlling our everyday lives. And in this form, it's really taking away property. So
Dutch farmers are some of the most productive in the world. How can it make sense, even to totally incompetent governments, to take farmland and, as you say, use it to build housing for all the unskilled immigrants that Western nations are importing on an industrial scale?
Well, because they have different plans for us. Let me just tell you, your favorite man in the world, Bill Gates, of course, is related to this story once again. So the Dutch minister who pushed for this nitrogen law, she has a brother-in-law who owns a online picnic. It's called Picnic Supermarket. And the supermarket has had a $600 million investment last year by no other than Bill Gates. Once again, and that's the man, obviously, who wants us all to eat his Beyond Burger, his fake synthetic meat, and the bugs, of course. So that's the type of future that these people have in mind for us, and it's a good way to keep us under their control. If they control the food supply, you control the people.
You know, I wouldn't mind eating insects picked out for me by Bill Gates, were it not for the fact that you never know how manipulated those insects might be and what miracle vaccines he might have managed to put in all those attractive little bugs. Thank you for that, Eva. I don't understand how Bill Gates, he built Windows 98, the bane of everybody's existence, and it made him so much money that he has now become the biggest farmer on the planet, and he is breeding this. No one would try, if you submitted this to your publisher as a science fiction novel, Bill Gates, a very wealthy man who made a lousy computer, and he used all the money to become a big farmer of special insects that you're going to eat instead of beef and lamb and chicken and veal and kedgeree. No publisher would buy that, but it's happening before our eyes.